is Jessica from Peace Love Books, and same here with a video I did last year, and I was thinking, what did I want to put out this week? I didn't really know what kind of video I wanted to do, and I was like, I have not talked about new releases in a long time. I've done some new release reading vlogs that have been a lot of fun, but I haven't sat down and talked about all the new releases I've read this year, which means all these books released in 2023, and I'm going in order of how I read them. So I'm going to let you know if these books are worth your time. And now, spoiler, a majority of them are 4 or 5 star reads. So this year has been killing it with new releases. I have 2 full pages and I probably missed some, but I am going to chat about these and I'm so excited to talk about them. So we're just going to talk briefly about the books and my thoughts and go from there. Okay, so the first one's actually historical romance. I read The Dude Gets Even by Joanna Shupe. This one is, I think, book 3 in the series. It was my least favorite in the series. I really like the heroine, Nellie. She is just the kind of heroine who doesn't let society like put her at a place to tell her what to do. And she meets the hero and they kind of have like a little rendezvous and they agree to meet again. And then he realizes that he is engaged, I think, to her friend. I don't remember who he's engaged to, but he's engaged to someone else. So she is like, really? And the story goes from there. Honestly, it was a little bit forgettable. I'm really sad to say that because Joanna Shupe is one of my absolute favorite historical romance authors. I think that after having, oh, was this book 4? Because they had book 2. I didn't read book 1 because that one my friends did not love, and so I decided to skip that one. I think book 2 was like the fan favorite. Everybody loves book 2, and I really enjoyed book 3. So this one I'm pretty sure is the 4th of the series. I don't have any of them in order on my shelves. I see book 2 there, no idea where another one went, but I'm pretty sure this is book 4 then. This one I give 3.5 stars. I was not the biggest fan. I sadly found a lot of the plot to be slow, and I'm used to her plots being a lot more engaging, and so 3.5 stars. Not my favorite in the series, but the other ones are just so good that they're hard to live up to. Then I read A Pessimist's Guide to Love. Oh, I think I forgot to talk about book 2. Okay, so obviously I read 2 books in this duet, and I don't think I wrote down the second one, but this one is a duet by Jennifer Hartman. It came out this year, and I was super, super, super excited. They came out really in close to each other. I think it was supposed to be like 2 weeks, and she ended up cutting it down to like a week. This one, super angsty. The heroine was best friends with the hero's sister. Something happened to her, and she's not around anymore, and the heroine had like left town and never returned, and now she's back and she's working for the hero. He's very grumpy. He owns a garage, and I love their dynamic in book 1. I gave book 1 5 stars. I was absolutely obsessed with it. I loved how he wanted nothing to do with her, and she kind of like wormed her way into his life, and she was just so bright and sunshiny. It was definitely Grump Sunshine. The second book though of the duet, I gave 3 stars. I did not love the focus on more so the hero and not really the relationship as much, and so I wanted more of the romance and more of the angst we got in book 1. We just didn't really get that in book 2. We figured out what happened to the sister, and I thought that it was going to be like something mind-blowing, and just like I had friends who had all these crazy theories, and I was like, oh my god, that'd be so cool if that happened, and it didn't, and it just felt kind of not like a letdown, but like we had hyped it so much, and when it came out we were like, oh, like it wasn't anything like mind twisty like we thought it was, that we had expected from Jennifer Hartman. So 3 stars for this one. I wanted to really love it, but I just loved book 1 so much that this one, kind of like with the Joanna Shupe one, just didn't live up to book 1 and how good it was for me. The next one is Final Offer by Lauren Asher. I actually read this for a vlog, and I read it like in not even 2 days. Could not put this book down. I gave it 5 stars. This was my favorite of the series, and I'm really excited to go back and read Lauren Asher's Dirty Air series, I think is what it's called. I was going to say Throttled, but I think that was the first one of the series. I read the first one and I liked it, but I've heard they get better, and this one is book 3 in the Dreamland Billionaire series. To me, it's the best one. The hero, he shows up in a small town to the heroine. It's a second chance romance, and he needs to grovel to win her back. He is dealing though with, I believe he had substance abuse issues like alcohol, and he was dealing with that in here, and it's very small town, which I loved, and he's a billionaire, so he like throws his money around however he wants to win the girl back, which I loved. So this one, so good. It's long, but it did not feel long. I flew through it. 5 stars. Favorite of the series. I feel like I read a lot of series, and I loved the later books in them. Of all of these, not the first one I talked about, but like for the other ones I'm going to talk about, they're so good. The next one I feel like has not like contention, but differing opinions, and that is Powerless by Elsie Silver. I was obsessed with this. I gave it 5 stars. I listened to the audiobook. Jasper, I loved him. I love how he was a hockey player. I loved how it was friends to lovers. She ran out on her wedding day because her fiance was cheating on her, and he's there to like whisk her away, and they just like spend time together, and I loved it. I love a sweet hero. I know everybody loves Heartless, but Jasper and Theo are my two number ones in this series, and I'm gonna talk about Theo's book later, but this one, 5 stars. I loved it. One of my favorites of the series. I just love a good friends to lovers romance too, and she had grown up with them. I think she's the Eaton's cousin, and he was living on the farm, and you figure out like his past and why he's so damaged. I also love a damaged hero, and he's pretty damaged. And one of the Eaton brothers is actually missing because he is in the military, I believe, and so Jasper, it's really hard for him to play, and he's very distracted, so they kind of force him to take a leave of absence from hockey, and they're like, you need to like deal with personal things, and it's affecting your game and your like mental health, and we really care about you, so go figure things out on your own and then come back, which I really love that talk in here. This was so good. 5 stars. It's gonna be a lot of me telling you read these books because so many of these new releases are amazing. The next one I read was The Temporary Wife by Katerina Mora. I've read so many of her books this year, and now I get releases sent from her, which I'm super appreciative of. They are a lot of times like billionaire marriage of convenience romances, especially the series. The grandmother pretty much sets up all of her grandchildren to get married, and there's like all these stipulations for them to get their money from her. And so this one, our heroine worked for the hero, and he asks her to marry him. He's supposed to marry someone else and asks her to marry him, and sets her up and says like, I'll make you whatever you want in the company, you get all of the money you want, but I don't want to marry this woman. I want to marry you as a marriage convenience. But he really likes her, and I thought this was fun. I gave it 4 stars. The Wrong Bride is still my favorite and one of my favorite Katerina Mora books. That was the first one in this series, but this one I really enjoyed, and I'm really excited to read the next book. I think I'm gonna love it. She just does billionaires and marriage of conveniences so well, so they're always a good time. Then I read The Choice by Ashley Jade, and if you guys watched my favorite books of the year video, did I put this in there? I don't think I put this in there. Oh my gosh. This is one of my favorite books of the year. This one, I have a little graphic that I have on Instagram where I put my favorite book of the month every month, and this was my favorite book of February. So angsty and so good, and I'm dying for book 2 of the Duet, which has not come out yet, which is okay. She can take her time. But this one is a prequel to The Words, and you know that the two heroes grew up together, and they are basically foster brothers, but like super close, and they get placed with this family, and it's next door to the heroine, and the heroine really bonds with the other guy first, but over their like shared trauma that they have in their past. But the hero is his best friend and is like madly in love with her, and she has feelings for him, but she's like, I'm already like with this other guy, and we have a very strong emotional connection, and I don't want to hurt him. And it gets very messy very quickly, and I was obsessed. There's cheating in here, so much angst, love triangle, forbidden romance, everything I love. I was obsessed. I love this book so much. I'm excited for the next one whenever it comes out. Then I read The Neighbor Favor by Christina Forrest. This one is a very literary book. The hero is a fantasy author, and he has rights under a pen name, and him and the heroine started this like online relationship where she read his book, was obsessed with it, and was emailing him, and he emailed back, and he thought like he didn't really have a chance, and he was a travel journalist, and they got really close and were gonna meet, and then he freaked out and completely cut her off, and she was horrified. She thought she was being catfished. She's like, oh my gosh, I'm so stupid, like I can't believe this happened. And so now flash forward to her working for an editor, and now he like basically had his big break and is making it big and has to write still, and they happen to be neighbors, and he catches on pretty quickly who she is, because he was not really open about a lot of things. She was much more open about pretty obvious things, and he's like, oh my god, this is the girl. And so it goes from there, and I had so much fun reading this. I think I gave it like 4.5 stars. I love a good book that talks about books a lot. So it was an author, and she worked for an editor, and she was really trying to get her dream job. I think she wanted to publish like children's or middle grade fantasy books because she found a love for that growing up, and I thought this was super sweet. I loved their relationship. I loved them living near each other and him keeping the secret, and I love Christina Forrest's YA, so I was really excited to love her adult romance. Then I read Legacy of Shadows by Tessa Hale. I need to read more Why Choose Romances. I've already asked Samantha from Books with Samantha for recommendations, and she has given me a lot, so wait for a video on those. But this one is a paranormal why choose where the heroine grew up, and she was in a pretty abusive household, and the hero was her best friend growing up, and his mom and her dad passed away around the same time, and then he moved away with his dad, and he pretty much shows up and is like, I need to take you away from here, and whisks her off to this like giant estate he lives on with his friends. And she ends up going to school with him and his friends and where they live, and realizing that she is in a weird world, and it's a paranormal world, and the heroes all have different paranormal things about them. Like some are shifters and some are like kind of witches, and she's learning more about them, and she ends up being their like fated mate. I love a good fated mate story. This one I thought was a lot of fun. I gave it 4 stars. The next one I loved even more. I like that one. This one though, I just really liked all the heroes and her relationships with them as they developed, and it ended on a cliffhanger. These are short, fun Why Choose romances that I fly through on audio, so check this out if you want to. I gave it 4 stars. Then I read The Third Baseman by Lulu Moore. This one is a baseball romance, second chance, and I love this. I gave it 5 stars. I ate it up. The hero and the heroine were madly in love in high school, and then he like obliterates her heart. He is like, I don't want to be with you anymore, see ya, and then goes and becomes a professional baseball player. And she is this like really intelligent engineer, and she gets hired by the baseball team to help them succeed in very mathematical ways and very unique ways, I would say. And so she's working for the team, and she realizes he actually is the reason why she was hired for the team, because he is one of the players, and he is determined to win her back and has to grovel. And I loved it so much. There was such good baseball, and they had to address like why he broke her heart. I gave it 5 stars. I'm excited to read more from Lulu Moore, and I always love a good baseball romance. Then I read Travis by Mia Sheridan. This one is a spinoff to Archer's Voice. This is about Travis, who is Archer's half-brother, and he was a big jerk in book 1, so I was interested to see how book 2 would turn out, and we get to see Archer and the heroine from book 1 a lot in here, and Travis knows he's made mistakes. He does have to pay for his mistakes and address them, but he falls for the heroine who is passing through town with her brother, and I'm pretty sure it was her brother was caught with Travis's present girlfriend at the time, and so the town like really hates her brother. He just wreaks havoc wherever he goes, and they're just like passing through. They just pass through town to town to town, and they start a friendship and fall in love. And I thought this was a lot of fun. I gave it 4 stars. It wasn't as amazing as Archer's Voice, but I really love the end and how they really had to come together as a town. It's a very small town, and address their thoughts about people and how they treat people, and like what happened with Archer in book 1. And I just love Mia Sheridan and her small town romances in this world, so this was a fun read. Oh, I think also Travis was a re-release, so it re-released by the publisher this year. That's why I'm counting it as a new release, because it had, I think, some editing going on in it. But then I read Bad Mother by Mia Sheridan. This is a romantic thriller. It's a second chance romance, so I give this one 4 stars as well. This one is a story about a woman who is an investigator, and she goes back to her hometown to investigate a serial killer, and she needs to call in the help of her ex, who was a professional poker player, and there's like things at the crime scene that connect it to him, and so she needs his help, and they start working together to find the killer. I thought this had a really great twist at the end. The middle was a little slow for me, so that's why I gave it 4 stars, but I was not expecting how things were ending up, and I really appreciated the romance because it was a second chance for them, and I love a good second chance romance. So if you want a good thriller, you can try Mia Sheridan. Then I picked up Black Ties and White Lies by Kat Singleton. She blew up this year, and I love that for her. I've gotten to meet her twice now at signings, and she is so cool. Like, she's a really cool person, and I really like her. And this one was just a spicy fun time. Sometimes I need books like that. I have a few on here where I'm like, I'm here for the vibes. I'm here for the fun time. There's nothing super emotional about it. This is an ex's brother's romance, and the heroine is working this job, and the hero basically walks in and is like, I just bought your company, you're gonna come work for me, and you're gonna marry me. And so he wants a marriage of convenience with her, and she is like, what the heck is happening? And she's like kind of swept up in this whirlwind life that the hero just dominates because he's a billionaire, can do whatever he wants, and it was just a lot of fun. There's some really memorable scenes in here. It's definitely very spicy, just very billionaire, and I like a good spicy billionaire romance. That's really all this was. That's really all I needed. I gave it 4 stars. I had a lot of fun. She has a very different romance that came out this year that I'm going to talk about later, but I'm excited to see what else she comes out with. Then I read Right Man, Right Time, which is a hockey romance, and it's a fake dating romance, age gap romance, and I love this so much. I give it 5 stars. I usually don't read a lot of Megan Quinn because she's more rom-com, but a lot of my friends were reading it, and I was like, I'll give it a try. 5 stars. This one was so good. I loved how they met, and she needs to make someone jealous and make it look like she's over her ex. So she goes up to this guy in the bar and is like, I want to kiss you right now because something's happening over there. Tell me no, and if you don't, I'm gonna kiss you. And so she does, and then he is also trying to get over an ex, so it's mutually beneficial. But he's a pro hockey player, and I loved how he is like, what am I doing? She is literally, I think she is either in her senior year of college or she's in a master's program, but he's like, I'm like in my 30s. Why am I dating someone in college? And it was a lot of fun. I had so much fun reading this. I like a good hockey romance, and I enjoyed this book. Then I read When a Moth Loved to Be by Pepper Winters, and this one unfortunately me is one of the ones that I really didn't like that I read this year. This one is a fantasy romance, and it's very like prehistoric fantasy where the hero and heroine are pretty much like dropped into this prehistoric place with no memory, and so she is with like this tribe of people and he is with this pack of like wolves, and they're trying to recover their memories and they are continuously drawn to one another, and it goes on from there. This was way too long. I gave this 2.5 stars. There was so much potential in here. I did this for my Patreon book club and got to chat with an author about it, and she loved it, and it was fun getting to see why she loved it because I think those elements were spot on and they were really interesting, and the romance was basically like a faded romance, which I love, but there was too much repetition in the slow parts where it was just slow and so much could have been cut out. And what I didn't realize is that this author already cut off like 200 or 300 pages of the book after it released, or like right before it released from her ARC readers. She chopped off a bunch, and I was like, it still could have used like half the book cut out, so it was just way too long and slow, and I just couldn't get into it, so I gave it 2.5 stars. I have 2 books that I realized I forgot to talk about. So I have Catherine Cowell's new releases this year. You guys know I'm obsessed with her. She is one of my favorite people of all time, so I love her books. I became a small town romantic suspense fan last year, if you couldn't tell, and she was one of the reasons why. I read Whispers of You, loved it, 5 stars. This one is a second chance romance, and heroine and hero were madly in love in high school, and then there was a mass shooting in their town where the heroine almost died and the hero blames himself. So he stayed around long enough for her to recover and was like, I gotta go. Like, I cannot deal with this anymore. So he leaves and doesn't come back until years later when his dad has a heart attack and he wants to be there for his family. And the heroine is mad and he has to make amends, especially like his friends, and he left. But someone is now picking off survivors of the shooting. And so the town is just being terrorized again, and he gets very protective of her and they have to figure out who's doing it. So love a good romantic suspense, small town from Catherine, 5 stars. And then of course I gave the next one 5 stars. This one is Echoes of You. It's friends to lovers. My 2 favorite tropes recently this past year have been friends to lovers and second chance. So right up my alley. They've been friends for a long time. She lived in a very abusive household and really relied on him to feel safe. And now she has a new boyfriend. She moved, I think, to Atlanta, and he becomes abusive. And so she doesn't want to like have this cycle happen to her again. So she leaves and goes back to her small town and into the arms of the hero, and he is so protective of her because she was abused before she came there and had visible bruises, and he literally is like, who did this to you? Who touched you? I'm gonna take care of them. And he's very protective, and someone is terrorizing her, so they have to figure out who it is, and I really enjoyed this one too. 5 stars. I'm just gonna always give her 5 stars because I'm obsessed. Then I forgot, I didn't grab this from my shelf. I read One Look by Lena Hendricks. This one is a small town single dad romance, and the heroine is like a professional crier at funerals. So she's hired at funerals to make it look like she really was close to the person who died and cries there, and the hero sees her and is like, what the heck are you doing here? Like, this is ridiculous. And she ends up moving to the small town because she doesn't really know what she wants to do with her life. She's in this weird state, and the hero is a coach at a town nearby for college, I think, in football, and he comes home to his hometown to see his family, and he has a daughter. And this one I gave 4 stars. I liked it. It wasn't my favorite small town romance, but I could see that Lena Hendricks had a lot of potential, especially with the next book in the series, which I gave 5 stars. I loved it. This was just a fun time. I liked it. It was a very interesting setup. Not my absolute favorite, but still good enough, so it was a 4-star read. Then I listened to the audiobook of My Dark Romeo by Parker Huntington and LJ Shen. This one was a wild ride. Both of the authors are known for being very unique in their plot choices, and so this one is a marriage of convenience. The hero pretty much ruins the heroine. It feels very historical because he is caught in a compromising position with her, and she is very wealthy. It's in this wealthy world at this like event, and people are appalled, and he's like, guess we gotta marry now. So they get married, and he did it to get revenge for a certain reason, and it's their romance. And the heroine is so angry that she does so many things to like make him mad and get back at him, and then they fall in love. So this one I thought was a lot of fun. I gave it 4 stars. I like kind of those over-the-top romances, especially when they're like billionaire marriage of convenience. Those are fun to me. Like, this was a fun time, so I gave it 4 stars. Then I read Offside by Avery Keelan. This one is a hockey romance. So she gets dumped by her boyfriend, and she is like thinking he was probably cheating on her the whole time because they've had breaks in their relationship. He's a hockey player, and then she runs into the rival hockey player at like a bar, and I'm pretty sure her brother is also a hockey player, and that relationship was a little annoying to me. I was like, come on, be a better brother. Like, come on. And so she starts dating the rival hockey player. So I really loved that aspect, but I wanted just a little bit more that was cut out. Like, it did not have to be that long, so I gave it 3.5 stars. I thought it was really fun, but too much. Then I read Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez, 5 stars. Obsessed with this book. I listened to it as an audiobook, and this one, they're two doctors. The heroine really doesn't like the hero. She feels like he's encroaching like on her space. She wants to be the like head of the whatever it is. I don't remember the terminology right now, and she feels like he's a threat, but he is just wanting to be there and get this job, and he has a lot of anxiety, and so he starts like writing her notes, and they start writing notes back and forth to each other, and it's very, very sweet. And she's dealing with so much in her life. She got out of a bad relationship. Her brother is very, very sick and needs a new kidney, and they start falling in love, and it's so sweet, and I love the hero so much. 5 stars. I could talk about this all day, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to say read it because it's amazing and the audio is amazing. Then I read Into the Tide by Laura Pavlov. I've become obsessed with Laura this year. I've read a lot of her backlist, and this one I gave 4 stars. This one is it's more like a 4.5 star. This one is my favorite in the series so far. It is a brother's best friend. We're together for the summer, and she wants to lose her virginity. So she is back home in the small town and plans on leaving. So it's only meant to be a fling. The hero is like, I'm seeing my best friend's sister differently for the first time. They kind of have to sneak around behind her brother's back, and it's just like a fun summer romance. I really enjoyed reading this one. I like a protective hero too, and he's very protective over her. A little bit of a secret romance, a little forbidden because her brother would freak out if he figured it out, but I enjoy this one. I give it 4.5 stars. Then I forgot to grab so many of these off my shelves. Beyond the Thistles by Samantha Young, I gave it 5 stars. I love this one. It is small town in Scotland, and the heroine works at this estate, and somebody starts being not weird, but like attacking things around her, like freaking her out. And so the hero is a bodyguard at this estate for wealthy people, and she works there because she's running away from an abusive ex with her daughter, so she's a single mom, and the hero is very protective. He does not want to let anybody in. He is very emotionally scarred, has a lot of trauma in his past, and so he doesn't let people in, but he sees that she's in danger and wants to protect her, so he does. So it's a bit of forced proximity. Then they start a little bit of a physical relationship, and he's still like, I'm not getting close to you, and then obviously fall in love. I love the setting, very small town with some romantic suspense. I love this one. I give it 5 stars. Then on audio, I read Accidental Attachment. This one's another one that's very literary. We have an author and an editor. So the heroine is a pretty successful author. She had a series become like a Netflix show, but it's paranormal, and she starts having writer's block. So she decides to write a fan fiction about her new editor, who she's very attracted to, and she's super into the story, and she thinks that her other manuscript is so bad. The hero is like, I need your manuscript, like send it in. So she does, and she sends the wrong one, and he reads it, and he's like, this is so different from what we wanted, but I love it. And he's like, I'm gonna go all in on this. I'm gonna support this. We're gonna do it. And she's horrified. She ends up having to go on tour for her show, and the hero says, I'm gonna go with you because she can't fly. She has a medical condition. She has a dog, and she just like can't fly because the last time was a disaster. So he's like, I'm gonna go with you, drive the bus, and we're gonna work on your book while we go on tour. So it's forced proximity. They fall in love. It's super cute. I give it 4 stars. I really liked it. I like Max Monroe. They just write really fun romances, and like I said, I like ones about people in the book industry, so this was one I really enjoyed. Then I read Charlie Love and Cliches, and this one I loved. I've seen a lot of people not like this book, but I really liked it. It was just so fun and cute. The heroine works in like PR management with her dad. He really doesn't respect her and like abuses her time and uses her a lot more than he should, but doesn't treat her well, and she is just like determined to show her dad that she's a good worker. So the hero is hired to be like the manager of her team, and he is a really successful PR manager person, and they actually had spent like a week together in the past and like never forgot each other, but it was definitely right person, wrong time, so they just like never reconnected. And now she's working for him, and she is just a fun character. She's very quirky, she is very clumsy, and people thought that was annoying, but I thought it was fun. She was very endearing. I liked her. I loved how hard the hero fell and how he just like could not stop being around her and obsessing over her and touching her, and it was adorable. I gave it 5 stars. I really liked this one. It was everything I wanted at the time, so if that sounds good to you, I would definitely pick it up. Then I read Rewrite Our Story by Cass Singleton. This one is the same author as Black Ties and White Lies, but this one is a very small town second chance romance. They fell in love, and then something happened, and they not together anymore, and she moved off to the big city. He is still in the small town. He's not like a rancher, but he like runs a farm, and she is back in town because his mom died. So he really helped her when her mom passed away, and she's actually best friends with his sister, and she is back in town, and things are very emotional. She's actually wrote a book kind of inspired by their romance and is stuck on the second book, and that's their second chance at love. I really like this. It's definitely a lot more emotional and just like a very small town romance, which is so different from her other book, and I gave this one 4 stars. I enjoyed it. It was more like a 4.5 star. I liked it better than her previous one, and I'm just excited to see if she can write some more emotional romances. I don't know what she's gonna write next. I think she's gonna write more in this series, so I think we're gonna expect some more small town from her. Then I read Until I Get You by Claire Contreras. This is like people have said it's like a dark hockey romance, but it is, it's kind of dark. It's not like super dark, and it's only half a hockey romance and then turns into like a billionaire second chance romance. So the hero and the heroine meet, and it's instant attraction, but she has something in her life that prevents her from having a relationship, and she's horrified over what can happen if she starts dating someone. So she really keeps people at arm's length, and the hero is like, you're mine. And so they end up dating, and then something happens and she's freaked and she like disappears, and he ends up leaving hockey and becoming a billionaire and trying to find her again. So it's like basically like, you're the only one literally for me. Like, it is destined soulmates, but there's a time jump in here, and there's just a lot to the story. Her past is pretty dark, but that's really the only dark part of the story. So I don't know if I'd consider it a dark romance, but I loved it. I gave it 4.5 stars. I listened to the audiobook and had so much fun listening to it, and I think it was just such a unique book that had some suspense in there, which I love, so I enjoy this one. Then I read Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros, 5 stars. I love this one. It's a fantasy about dragon riders at a dragon riding school, and that's really all I want to say. You've probably heard of it. You've probably seen it everywhere. It's gorgeous. 5 out of 5 stars. Obsessed with the romance. That's all I'll say. Then I read King of Pride by Anna Huang. This is my new favorite Anna Huang book. This one is a billionaire romance. She works in the bar at this like elite club that the hero is at, and he is a perfectionist, and he is used to being the best at everything, and she is just a fun character that really brings out a different side of him, and it's their romance. I gave it 5 stars. Again, like I said, I love a good billionaire romance, but this definitely had depth to it. I really enjoyed their relationship, and like, was it going to be realistic for them to be together or not? It was good. Then I read Love Me Today by A.L. Jackson. This one is a single dad romance where she starts out as the horse instructor for the daughter and then turns into the nanny for the daughter, and it's small town. The hero's very damaged and just brooding and doesn't want anything to do with her, and they actually meet and he hates her, so it's kind of hate to love as well, but there's some suspense in here that I really loved. I really liked the relationship with the daughter too, and how the hero kind of learned to let people in love, but still was very protective over the people he loved. So I really like this one. I gave it 5 stars. I don't know if I said that. 5 stars. Then I read Forbidden Hearts by Corinne Michaels. This one is another single dad nanny romance. The daughter is deaf, so she has to use ASL. The daughter's mom is going away on business, and so he just needs a little extra help. And so the heroine is his boss's daughter, and she knows ASL because she's currently in grad school for it. She's going through something where she doesn't know what she wants to do with her future because of something bad that happened that past year. So she is determined to prove herself to the hero and be a good babysitter, and they fall in love. There's an age gap. The hero is so reluctant to trust her, and she is hard-headed and like, I'm gonna prove myself to you, while they fall in love. And I just love this one so much. 5 stars. It was so good, and I like the little like surprise added to the end with the plot. I wasn't expecting that, and I really enjoyed the hero being very protective, so I love this one. Then I read Reckless by Elsie Silver. This one is the surprise baby romance. This is the newest one in the Chestnut Springs series, and I loved it. Winter is a heroine we had seen since book 1, and she is very cold and distant to a lot of people, especially to her sister, who is the heroine of book 1, but she needs love. And Theo really likes her, and he is just like this playboy bull rider, but Theo as a dad is everything. I love this. I loved how passionate he became about his daughter and about Winter, and just giving her a chance and being very protective over her. I love this book so much, and Winter is just like such an interesting character that I really loved reading her perspective and her journey she went on. 5 stars, one of my new favorites of the series. Then I read A Ship of Bones and Teeth by Karina Halley. This is a Dark Little Mermaid retelling, and I gave this one 4 stars. The beginning is very slow. So heroine basically married Eric, just like in The Little Mermaid, but Eric ends up being very abusive and awful, so she hates her life. And then they are kidnapped by pirates, and she falls for the pirate captain. This is very slow until the romance finally starts developing halfway through. The plot for the fantasy elements really got exposed during this part 2, so I was all in for this kind of world where she is really a more more a siren than a mermaid, and it was just so interesting and got a little dark in some places, and she's falling in love with a pirate captain, and he's falling in love with a siren who they absolutely hate, and there's a lot in the magic system that I enjoyed, but like I said, the first half was really hard to get through, so I give this one 4 stars. But I'm excited to see if Karina Halley's gonna write more of this kind of genre, because I've read her vampire stuff and don't love it, but I really enjoyed this one. Then I read Practice Makes Perfect by Sarah Adams. This one is a really cute, like, coaching romance where the hero is a bodyguard for her brother's fiance, and he has to come back to their small town for the wedding, and she ends up needing his help in dating, and they obviously fall in love. And I thought this was really cute. She is just determined to finally put herself out there, but she's very awkward and knows she's awkward and has a lot of awkward dates and needs help, and he helps her, but they end up falling in love, and he is trying to keep people at a distance because he's used to never settling down. He's like, I can never live in a small town, but I love the small town setting. I love the characters. I give this one 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed it, and I want to go back now and read book 1. Then we have QB Tyler with Keep Her Safe, which is an actual bodyguard romance, and she's an actress. He is like 10 or 12 years older than her. They start a relationship after she gets out of a 3-year relationship, and he's very protective over her. Super spicy, super good. Absolutely love this. 5 stars. QB Tyler knows how to write a good, fun time with still emotion and really teasing you with the spice, because she draws it out, and you're just like, oh my gosh, there's so much tension between these two characters. Get together already. I loved it. Then I read X's and O's by Amy Leah. I give this one 5 stars. I really enjoy this one. It is a roommate's romance where the heroine moves in with him and immediately is interrupting some lady time for him, and she is horrified and runs into the bathroom, and that's their first meeting, and she decides to track down all of her exes and have a second chance romance for herself because she is a reader. She loves reading. She's a bookstagrammer, and she ends up tracking these guys down, and the hero decides to help her, but he's falling in love with her along the way, and she is too caught up in trying to be like this perfect person for her ex to love her that she kind of like loses a sense of who she is and what her worth is, and I just really like the journey she went on. This was so much fun. I gave it 5 stars. I was surprised I liked it. I mean, it's about a bookstagrammer too, which I was like, I'm gonna be very critical of because I know a lot about that, but I thought the author did it well and I enjoyed it. Then I read Something Wild and Wonderful, which I have not stopped talking about. This one is an MM romance where they meet on the Pacific Coast Trail, and it's very emotional. They have a lot of healing to do. Fall in love. I cried. So much happened in this, and I just wanted the characters to just be protected at all costs, and I loved it. 5 stars. Then I read Anchor of Secrets by Tessa Hale. I read the audiobook of this one. It is book 2 to the Why Choose series, and this one, it's her learning more about the world that she's in. We figure out what happened to her after the cliffhanger of book 1, and she really develops her romance a lot more with the heroes, and we get a lot more emotional depth to them, which I loved, and I couldn't put it down. I listened to it almost all the way through in a day. It was so much fun. So I give this one 5 stars. I really enjoyed this one. I skipped Under the Stars by Laura Pavlov. This one is a billionaire romance. It's a boss romance. She gets hired to be his assistant and immediately is just very combative. She just pushes back at all costs, and he is in this small town even though he doesn't want to be because the office kind of got moved there, and he is very intrigued by her, and it's their romance. I give this one 4 stars. It's just your basic billionaire. She's working for him. She likes to push his buttons, and they end up having a really deep emotional connection, and I really like the Under the Stars reference. It was cute, so I give this one 4 stars. Then I read The Summer We Fell by Elizabeth O'Rourke. Love this one. I think I gave it 4.5 stars. This one's a love triangle. We flash back to the past where she is dating someone but falling in love with his best friend, and the present where it's her and the best friend still circling each other, and I really enjoyed it. I did like the past timeline more than the present timeline, which is why I gave it 4.5 stars. Super angsty though. Love triangle. Really good. Then I read One Touch by Lena Hendricks. This one is a brother's best friend, ex's brother, forced proximity romance. She is renovating her aunt's house. He is hired to help, and she wants to push back at him. She was a pushover when she was dating his brother, and she doesn't like being that kind of person, so she butts heads with him a lot. She gets in his way a lot during the renovation, and then there's an obvious attraction between them, so they start something, and I loved it. I had so much fun. I love that kind of atmosphere and plot of the book too, so I couldn't put this one down. And the last one is Cleat Cute, which actually doesn't come out until I think August. This is a sapphic soccer romance, and I wanted to love this so badly, but I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. Just the middle the romance didn't become the priority. I wanted it to focus more on the romance. I feel like that kind of fell to the wayside, but this one heroine has been on the US team for like 10 years. She's been playing professional soccer a long time. The other one is brand new, and she's so excited to be there, and they aren't that big of an age gap. There's like 3 years between them, but the new heroine really pulls out a different side of the other heroine, and it's their romance, and I really love the beginning. I love their dynamic. I love the spice in here, but I just wanted so much more from the romance as the book went on, and I feel like we just didn't get that. So 3.5 stars. It just didn't live up to the potential that I had built up in my mind, so I wanted a little bit more. And those are all of the 2023 releases I've read so far this year. That was a very long video. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know your favorite releases this year so far and what you're excited to check out and what releases are left in the year that you're excited for. I would love to hear, and that's all I have. As always, thank you so much for watching and have a good day. Bye.